r/askreddit. What scientific experiment would you run if money and ethics weren't an issue?
The Gilligan's Island experiment. Shipwreck 100 people with vastly different backgrounds, wealth disparity, and personalities on a remote island. See what kind of civilization grows from it. Then do it 50 more times to check results against each other.
I'd watch that show. I love survival dramas. The first 2 seasons of Lost was my perfect TV.
Ever hear about The Colony? It was a reality show attempting to mimic post-apocalyptic conditions for a group of people who had to try and survive.
I've always wanted to try to breed a winter blooming rose. Ethics are fine, but the cost of having that many roses in a hothouse and the decades of selective breeding most likely required to accomplish it would cost an astronomical amount, so I'm sticking with it.
This is one of the most interesting replies I've read that isn't cruel or obscure. It seems so simple and achievable, yet I fully understand the ridiculous amount of money and work involved as you described it to achieve the desired outcome.
Winter blooming rose. I don't understand this at all. Can you please explain it to me? Why would it take so much money? And what is the goal of this breeding?
Have an Olympics where every single athlete is drugged to an insane level. I think it would raise what is possible by today's standards drastically.
I'd like to see this, but not performance-enhancing drugs, like 400-meter foot race right after a huge dose of heroin.
There was a doco I saw a while back where they had some addicts perform several chores both sober and high, things like build a IKEA desk. The guy on pot took like 3 hours, and the one on cocaine did it in 10 mins, albeit completely incorrectly, but he claimed it was better than the instructions. It was not.
How long a decapitated head stays conscious? All we have are anecdotes that might have been exaggerated. I've always wanted a definitive answer, but you know ethics.
When the French still used guillotines, I believe it was reported that people would still blink and look for about 10 seconds. I remember watching a video about it, but can't remember who it was by.
Yeah, there was some weird doctor who conducted an experiment where he slapped a freshly guillotined head. You can read about it on the Wikipedia page about the guillotine. But I suspect that was more of tics and involuntary death reflexes because of nerves dying or some crap. I suppose the pain, the shock, and the sudden drop of blood pressure would cause the head to lose consciousness pretty much immediately.
How athletes from different sports react to fight or flight. Even further, would they fight differently than others?
How would the world react to a mountain of 100 billion pennies for free in the middle of a major area?
I thought that said penises at first. Either way, I'd show up with a bucket and fill it to the goddamn brim about 500 times over the course of 24 hours.
Near-death experiences and what people see. So basically, I'd want to kill a bunch of people, then bring them back to life. I'm sure a lot of them wouldn't make it back.
Flatliners.
CRISPR the absolute F out of some kids and make some next-level humans that can run stupid fast and jump crazy high, then make the Superhuman Olympics team and figure out what humans are really capable of.
Put them on every enhancing drug too, to just supersize the results. Make Usain Bolt look like a toddler in a wheelchair made of toast.
Dinosaur cloning? What else is there to do?
Humans have quite a few movies that tell you that dinosaur cloning is a bad idea on Earth.
So you're saying we need to go to the moon or Mars?
Oh man, I love this question. There are a ton of geoengineering experiments that I'd love to run if they weren't both 1. Illegal, 2. Insanely expensive, 3. Zero possibility of death and destruction. Iron fertilization. Basically dumping tons of iron dust into the ocean to cause an algae bloom, which should sequester a bunch of carbon and help mitigate global warming. Cloud seeding, space mirrors, dropping a nuke into a volcano. You know, normal stuff.
What are the downsides of iron fertilization?
A big butt algae bloom would block sunlight and kill tons of water vegetation and the animals that don't eat algae. Genetic altering of humans. I don't currently have an issue with anyone that wants to do it on themselves. However, to do it to an embryo or through the parent's DNA to see what we could do to advance humans would be amazing. Alterations to intelligence, memory, physical attributes, gills to swim underwater, visual alterations to see the full light spectrum and hearing for the full sound spectrum, immunity to all diseases and harmful bacteria, ability to eat almost anything for sustenance.
Cat girls.
Can you imagine the existential crisis you'd have if you found out you and your whole Subi minor species were created to satisfy horny weebs?
Raise a child without ever punishing or rewarding them. Just let them do whatever they want, and then see what happens to their behavior when they age.
I've actually thought a ton about this. I would put two people through the exact same conditions the entire life. Now I'm not talking just similar scenarios, but everything. From the weather inside the womb to the humans they interact with, to the wind, every day, and I would see if they are the same. Essentially, if humans are born with personalities, or if we develop them through little things all our life. Essentially the butterfly effect. To be honest, this probably wouldn't even be possible with infinite money, but it would be cool.
Have two identical twins and one control human. I would love to see this. I'm sure the controlled child would start behaving differently pretty quickly, but the identical twins could honestly turn out exactly the same for all I know. Not only would this experiment answer the nature vs. nurture questions about personality, but the identical twin study could teach us a great deal about free will.
3 Identical Strangers was about this experiment being done with twins and a set of triplets, separates at birth and put in different economical households. The siblings all turned out eerily similar to one another in terms of hobbies, likes, dislikes, etc.
Have a baby human raised by apes, basically to see if Tarzan's scenario would occur and the human is able to communicate fully with the apes.
Throw 2 groups of toddlers, one boys and the other girls, on 2 separate islands. Provide them food via robots and not teach them anything regarding gender, sexuality, race, language, etc. And see how they develop, and never mention to them the opposite sex and have them be racially diverse too. It would answer so many questions regarding psychology. i.e., is sexual orientation a product of nature or nurture? Are humans born with innate gender roles? Are humans born with innate gender roles? Are humans naturally tribal and / or xenophobic? Etc. Growing up never encountering the opposite gender is an interesting thought. If we're biologically wired to seek out the opposite sex for reproduction, but we don't actually know that the opposite sex even exists.
What then?
What then? But stuff is what?
I'd run a serial killer contest. First person to successfully kid ANAP and kill 50 people receives $10 million 1 year after the last kill if they are not caught by authorities, and if they can prove the killings. How many persons would undertake this? How many victims would there be?
I'm sure you'd find someone that can do it. At that point, you're not selecting for serial killers, you're selecting for hitmen. Serial killers would get weeded out quickly in this day and age due to them having a pattern in who and how they kill. Hitmen, though, you'll find plenty of people with the mindset necessary to do something like that for a guaranteed $10 million. Just bluntly killing someone you have absolutely no connection to, not playing around at all because you have no emotional stake in them dying, and then walking off and washing your hands of the situation. No one would be able to find you. As long as you kill them far away from each other, the police wouldn't even be able to link the murders together, and they wouldn't even think to begin working together to catch you.
Yeah, a skilled hitman could rattle off 50 in a few days just by targeting homeless camps.
Redesigning the human sinus. I wish to find a way to modify the body to fix that mess of an airway. Sometimes I think about how there's just hollow cavities behind your face and get really anxious. Specifically the Mayo Clinic illustration that comes up when you Google sinusitis. That crap makes my chest tight.
From the time I was born, I was sick for 5 straight years, with remissions lasting maybe a week here and there, with the docs scratching their heads as to why. Finally, they decided my mom must have Munchausen syndrome. As a nurse and mother, she was very offended by this and told them to do a full body CAT scan or else she wasn't taking me home. They found out I was born without sinus openings and / or polyps in my sinus cavities. Can't remember which, and I had to have holes drilled in my head and tubes put in them. Functional endoscopic sinus surgery, or FES, I think it was called. Everything improved after that. Still get sinus headaches a lot, but that's neither here nor there.
Brain transplants from humans to animals, and vice versa.
I'm thinking that the physical biology is too different for that specific cross-species surgery to work. Maybe start between humans, do a swap, and see if they fare.
Yeah, but imagine watching a dolphin in a human body figuring out how to move and adapt.